Here's your heads up. I started off as usual with one thing in mind, all about walking through the world, the metaphorical falling, stumbling, skipping, running and dawdling. And then, well, I don't know where I went. Come and follow me, if you would, and then tell me what I did. Hey, have a listen now.
Warning.
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 Warning. You are entering into the unplugged mind of Paul Clough. Too late. Personal Development Unplugged.
Oh yeah, how are you doing today? Hope you're feeling really well. And if you're not, I hope you feel really better. Here's a thing I've been thinking about and also heard from different places about walking through life. And it was a nice concept that a couple of guys were talking about. It was on the Reboot podcast with a guy called Seth Godin. But they went in a particular direction and it got me thinking in another direction. But the main question comes back to how do you walk through this world, this life? Or how have you walked through this world, this life? Because there's two. One is past and one is obviously in the now, the present. And you see, metaphorically, we can fall through life. We can take a stumble. We can take a fall, a tumble. We can skip. We can run. Or we can just dawdle. And I got to thinking about this, you see. Because they were talking about, what are we hiding from ourselves? And I thought, well, this isn't necessarily hiding. It's just not knowing. Because I guess in my mind, in the unplugged mind of Paul Clough, each way serves us in a particular way. It has a purpose. But if you're like me, do you ever take time to really get into the purpose? Why did I take a fall? Why did I stumble? Why was I skipping? Why did I run like hell to that one? And other times, why did I just seem to dawdle or just hang around? Different things. What was the intention behind that? So we're getting to the purpose. What was the intention for being that way as we were going through our life, and various, could be projects or could be issues or anything. And do we ask ourselves questions like, if we stumble, what was it that tripped us up? What was it? What didn't we see? Because if we couldn't have seen it, as we wouldn't have tumbled or stumbled, would we? Maybe just stabbed our toe at it and ow, that really hurts. But, maybe we weren't looking. Simple as that. But if we fell, sometimes it's not what created the fall, because that's sometimes pretty obvious. But maybe it's how we got up. We always say, we, whoever it is, we, I, you, me, it's not how many times you fall over. It's making sure you get up one more time than you fell over. And that's a real big difference. So how do you get up when you fall over? And what did you fall over? What did you fall off? What didn't you see? Again, maybe didn't see it. But then, they tend to be more negative, aren't they? But then we talk about skipping. And skipping to me, when you think about skipping, and it, takes me back into some type of, I don't know, no memory as such, but takes me back into just having a carefree attitude, skipping through life, just skipping. Now, what gave us that energy? To not just walk, but to put a spring into our step, I guess. And what was the emotion? But we'll get to that in a moment. But just skipping through life, it just feels so light, doesn't it? Or just for me. And then sometimes we go hell for leather. I say it right, Paul. Running. It's as if we're dashing. Now, are we dashing to something? Or are we running away from something? Now, that's something we could be hiding. We talk about values, going towards or moving away. Going towards what you want. I want full richness of life, or moving away. I don't want to go back into that old way. That's one is like scarcity and one is abundance. Different mindsets, aren't they? I wonder what yours is. And I know for me, each context has a different value, different running away or moving towards. But what happens if you dawdle through life? Not always, but just sometimes if you think back and say, well, I didn't actually make an awful lot of progress, but I seem to enjoy myself. Maybe, you were curious. You were enjoying the adventure, enjoying the journey. I hate the word journey. I much more prefer the adventure, because journey seems to have a start and an end, and adventures just seem to go on and on. But, maybe you were full of curiosity and you were just being observant and learning as you went along. Or maybe you dawdled because of uncertainty. What is going to happen? So maybe I'll just take a bit more time. Maybe that dawdling comes out as procrastination. Again, what are we hiding there? So there's so many questions to come up with. These are the ones I just came up with, bam, just like that. And they're all metaphorical, aren't they? In a way. Or we're answering a metaphorical way of walking, running, stumbling, falling, skipping, dawdling through the world. Our world. I wonder what questions you could come up with. And we're going to go there shortly. You see, even more than questions, or not more than questions, but another side of the questioning is, what emotions were you experiencing? Do we experience? Have we experienced? And what did that affect? So what was the effect of stumbling? What was the effect of falling or skipping or getting up or running or dawdling or any other way of going through the world? What was the effect? And what really gets me is, it really hit me a little bit, was that, am I learning from this? Have I ever sat down and gone through it? Well, I probably have, but not with this view, as it were, this way of trying to learn something. So I thought, while I was making some notes, this is not the way, certainly I was intending to think of this issue, because it was all about acknowledging what we were hiding. And I don't think it's about hiding things all the time, because that's an assumption, isn't it? Assumption that if we're walking through the world and we're not walking through it in a particular way, then we must be hiding something. Well, maybe not. Maybe we're just not learning. Or maybe we are learning and we just didn't know it. Or maybe you're really, really good at taking time to do that, because that's the real thing, I think. I was thinking about myself. Do I notice? Do I really notice at the moment? Am I skipping, stumbling? Am I running? Am I dawdling? Have I just fallen over right now? I know when I've fallen over, but do I consider, or do I just react? So, and this is about me, obviously, now, so change it to, do you really notice at the moment? Or even, do you notice after the event? Because sometimes we've got a result, or maybe it wasn't the result we want, and sometimes we'll maybe have a look at it, and sometimes we'll just get on with things. We forget, because the next thing is upon us, as it were. So I wanted to go through a few ways that, if you did choose to look at the way you walk through this world, and I think it'd be, I'm certainly going to be doing this now, because I think this is one of the ways that we can really learn from our own experience, because who else's experience is it? And I think it's going to tell you more for the future and allow you to, walk through this world, or go through this world, your world, the way you want to. So how can we do this? We always got to get a how. So the first one I'm going to guess is, this is always the best way, I guess, in the moment. At the very moment that you realize, in a particular context, how are you walking through this? Is it a stumble? Is it a fall? Is it a skip? Is it a run? Is it a dawdle, or whatever? So how do we do this? We've got to pause, haven't we? We've talked about this on a previous FMQ. Just pause for a moment. Take like an inventory of, what's the emotion I'm feeling right now? What's happening? Well, maybe first of all, just what is actually happening? Just so you know where you are. And then, what's the emotion I feel right now as I think of all of this stuff? Okay, I've paused, so maybe I'm a little bit out of the event, but when I notice the emotion that surrounds this event in me, and I think it'd be good just to, when you notice that emotion, is it something that you like or you dislike? Is it positive? Is it negative? And it, to some extent, it doesn't really matter, but it does matter, obviously. But more importantly, can you notice the intention? The intention of feeling this way. What is this emotion, this feeling, and the behavior that goes with it? What's it trying to do for us? What's it trying to do for you? Because if you can notice the intention, then you can actually just consider, is this getting me what I want? Is it actually getting this intention? Because if I want something and I'm dawdling, it is not getting it, is it? So there's something stopping you. So now we've got a little bit of a conflict going on. And as quick as anything, you can just say, well, is there a better way to get this intention? Because it's not working at the moment. Or this is getting the intention. If it's positive, how can I get it better? Because we can always get a little bit better. So in the moment, and I guess if you could do this more often, and in the moment it's sometimes very difficult to stop and pause. I understand that. But if you could, and if you did, I'm going to guess the more you do it, the more it's more it is going to become a habit. You're going to create this unconscious habit. So instead of pausing, your unconscious mind is going to pause in a millisecond. Notice the emotion, noticing the intention, and then making sure that they're aligned. So is the behavior and the emotion aligned to the positive intention? Because if it's not, your unconscious mind will be able to change just like that. Be able to find new resources. It'll be able to find a better emotion, a more positive belief maybe, and a more appropriate behavior in the moment. Because that's what we do. When we're really functioning in the moment and we're in that zone, our unconscious mind is continually finding the best resources for us, the best positive beliefs, the best emotions, and the best behaviors, the most appropriate ones to get that result, get that intention. So this is a way to, as I say, help and assist your unconscious mind, because when you're consciously and unconsciously doing it, you are aligned. And it's interesting if you're curious enough to know what is happening. And that's what it's all about, this personal development, I guess. It's not just thinking, and we're going to talk about thinking and doing in another one of the FMQs, but it's actually a being, and that being, you are creating the being that is you, and that being can be said in so many different ways, becoming totally aligned and constantly adjusting. Those 5 steps of success. One of them is being able to move and be flexible enough to change and adapt, so you're always and consistently going towards your goal, your outcome. And this is this is a brilliant way to help. So that's number 1. In the moment, pause, stop, take notice of your emotion, and just notice if you can notice the intention. If you can't, then you maybe want to do it another way. You see, this is probably the way what most people would do it. Probably the way I would do it, because I'd want to do it in the moment. But if I've missed it, it's reflecting. Reflecting what happened during the day. Reflecting what happened over that issue. I know when we do a training or when I work with a client, I want to reflect over the day or that session. How did it go? What went really well? What went okay? And what can I improve upon? Because I can improve upon absolutely everything. Every bloody thing can have that 1% better. So just that reflecting. But here, we're going to reflect a little bit deeper by saying, well, did I get what I wanted? Was it an issue? If it was an issue that we stumbled, what was I trying to do? And what did I get instead? If it was skipping and running and what have you, did something more positive, what was the outcome I actually got? Was it greater than I'd intended? If it's dawdling, so what didn't I get? What did I get? They can be different. So just as you notice what was the outcome, and as you think of the outcome, and the way as you reflect and you remember that particular event, or series of events, what was the emotions present? What was the, if it's the right word, predominant one? The one that was there more often. That's what I'm trying to say. Was it negative or was it positive? Just notice the emotion. If you can't put a label on it, doesn't matter. Just notice where it is in your body. That's where it is. And then notice, well, what was I intending to do? Or did I have a conscious intention? Sometimes we just do things. And it's nice to think back and say, well, what would have been my conscious intention? What did I think it was? And then as you notice that, go back into that emotion, just like when we paused, or notice what was the unconscious intention for having me feel this way, behave this way. And then notice the result you got and compare it with the result you get. So did that result match your intention? Obviously it was more negative. It didn't get there. I wonder why that was. What was the conflict going on? Maybe there was things like fear. So I didn't get what I wanted. I was feeling negative, fearful, and therefore it was maybe holding me back. It didn't want me to maybe feel failure. Maybe it didn't want me to just fail or get hurt, embarrassed. But the thing is, if it didn't feel good, it's not working anyway, is it? So when you think of that and you notice the intention, so maybe that intention was fear of failure. And you had that little belief pop up, as we always tend to do, that I'm not good enough. You can see how those are working towards that positive intention, not allowing you to be hurt by it. But then notice that's a conflict. And imagine, well, how could I have got the outcome that I wanted in a different way and not get hurt and not fail or not, sometimes we don't get the result we want. We just get an outcome. So how could I have just been okay? How could I feel confident? And you just imagine that out. Imagine it out in your mind. Different ways of doing the same event again. Having maybe a different emotion. What different belief could I have had? What behavior could I have done differently? And imagine what that outcome would have been. And then, did I get the outcome I wanted? And did it match that outcome, that intention of not failing? So yeah, I got it. I didn't get the result I wanted, but I learned from it. So I'm now learning, and that's a positive. So, and then imagine a different way. So if I did a different belief, everything's okay, maybe. I'm okay, everything's okay. There's always a way. What type of emotion would go with that, and what type of behaviors would go with that? Would that get a better outcome? And so here's what you're doing then. You are helping your unconscious mind notice different ways of achieving that outcome. Now, some of them are going to get better, some of them not so good. But now you're actually getting another set of strategies, as it were. And because your unconscious mind never knows quite what is real or imagined, it's now beginning to think, well, I've done this quite a few times, and I know how not to do it. And I know how to do it. And again, you're building up this conscious-unconscious alignment of understanding the intention and then looking to get it in a better way, which is all we want, isn't it? We want that wonderful positive intention. We want our outcome, and we want to get it in a better way. Hey, win-win. Now, you see, when we do that, what I wanted to think about was, you got to think a little bit, I guess, of noticing if there's a consistent negative emotion. Just in case, on the stumbles and the falls, or any other type of, if it's dawdling through fear or holding back and procrastination, just notice if there's a consistent negative emotion. Because if there is, and they're starting to spread in different events as well, and it's becoming a more often thing, that's something you want to work on individually. This is a negative emotion. What's it trying to do for me? Now, if you can do it that way yourself, if it's not a mega thing and you just want to sit down and work through, there's loads of places you can do that. I'm going to tell you about that in a minute. But just get a therapist. Just have a couple of sessions with a therapist. That's all you need. Get rid of this stuff. Learn from it and then use it in the future in a different way. So, but first of all, you've got to compare and notice, what things are happening more than normal. Do I want them? Don't I? If I don't, let's find a way to get rid of them. Because that's all you need to do in a way that, where am I going now? Because this is what I'm thinking. There are so many different ways to change. It doesn't have to be with a therapist, but if you do, it tends to be really quick. But there's loads of stuff here on this website, this podcast. Just go through the back episodes. Oh, my voice, my words. Go through the backlog, as it were, the log back, the past episodes. And you'll notice there's things like perceptual positions, because then you can start to learn things. Learn about those times. What was that emotion trying to do for you? You can go into the hypnosis. You can move about changing states. You can do creating new emotions by anchoring them. There's so many different things. And there's all those lovely blooming hypnosis tracks. You know where to find them. paulcloughonline.com/podcast. We'll talk about that again later. But there are so many things you can do. But, this is what we've now found. Maybe there's an issue we need to work with. Great. We've found an issue. Issues go quickly. Let's just deal with it, because you can. Now, what I was thinking about this was, in summary, I know I don't take enough notice and enough time to notice this. And I don't take enough time to sit down with my journal and just think, what happened today maybe? This project I was doing, why didn't I push it forward? What stopped me? How was I walking through the world with this project, this goal in mind, this thing? The other thing is, I'm also missing the lessons from those negative times, but also, what about the times when I've ran through and skipped through a project, an issue, a goal? What can I learn from those? Because when I notice a difference compare those differences. What would happen? What was the belief I had when I was skipping? What was the emotion I had when I was skipping? What would happen if I put those in? What was the belief? What was that positive belief that I had when I was skipping through that towards the end of that goal and achieving my goal? What would happen if I put those into those other contexts where it wasn't quite so good? And then massage it and do even more. So much here that we can just do. And I think I put here as a meta title, as it were, acknowledge what we're hiding. But maybe it's a matter of just thinking about it now, just acknowledging that we're missing the lessons. And if we learn from those lessons, wow, we're going to start moving. This is all about personal development. We're developing ourselves by learning from ourselves, not learning from others, learning from ourselves, and then learning from others how to deal with that. That's what it's all about. And then sharing, because I got this from someone sharing, and I've now shared it with you, and you can share it with other people. And this integrated field of learning that I bang on about just gets richer and richer. And the thing is, when you start skipping, running with just pure excitement and safety though, reaching those goals, you are going to change the world anyway, because you're going to be changing your world. Because the more you do your skipping and your running, and maybe if it's a dawdling, because you're taking in all the wonders and the riches of the world, you are enriching your life. And the ripples of that will go so far and wide, as I say, because the energy from you will spread. And that is absolutely awesome. So, there's another so. I'm not sure how we got round to all of this, and I hope it does make sense, because I think one or two, I might have gone off track a little bit. But let's just recap very quickly. So, notice how you're walking through the world. Is it stumbling, falling, skipping, running, dawdling, or something else? Best of all, can you pause in the moment? Notice the emotion. Notice the intention. Make sure it's working. If it's not working, change. Be flexible. Remember your goal? Go for it. 5 keys to success. That's on an FMQ. If not, take some time to reflect. Did you get your outcome? Didn't you? Was it negative? Was it positive? What was the emotion? What was the intention? And then imagine out new scenarios or new ways of getting that goal. Maybe using perceptual positions and hypnosis tracks to learn from it. And also to imagineer the new outcomes. And create, as if it were, a wonderful library of learnings, as it were, unconsciously. But each time you're also telling your unconscious mind what you want. Because if you got what you want, you're going, yeah. If you didn't get what you want, you're telling your unconscious mind, this is what I do want instead of this. So you're setting in directions every time. And just by working on yourself, you're just honouring your unconscious mind's intention and trying to understand yourself and then finding a better way. And then last of all, as we said, just share. Anyway, I've rambled on far too long, I guess. I just hope it really made sense to you. It's made sense to my mind, and I know what I've got to start doing, which is all of those things. So with that, you might have to re-listen to this. I think I'm going to, just to get those things hammered into my little old brain. But as you do, have more fun than you can stand, and why not create even bigger dreams? Because you can. It'll be great, and those ripples of change will go further than you could ever imagine. Think of Disney. I bet he didn't think his ripples of change would go as far as they've gone. And he's just an ordinary man, or was an ordinary man, but an ordinary man doing extraordinary things, just like you. Enjoy. Speak to you again soon. Oh, I nearly forgot, as I always do. Just remember Hypnosis Tracks, paulcloughonline.com/podcast. Share, please, if you could. Just share what you got out of this one or any other podcast to your best friend, to your not best friend, to anybody, only one person or more. And of course, if you could subscribe, it just helps spread the word, because that's what happens. I think I said word, not world. But subscribe and leave if you could, a nice little review. Again, that just helps to share the word with other people as well. It does take a few minutes. If you got that time, that would be awesome. Anyway, I gotta go. Bye.
Warning, you are now leaving the unplugged mind of Paul Clough. It's time to fly on your own. Be brave, my friend.
Personal Development Unplugged.